You know, this is what UFC champion have to do. If you're real champion, you have to take fight, doesn't matter how many days, who is gonna be, not like your pound for pound champion when they give him chills on him. If you're real champion, you have to fight. They put him number one, the number one guy right now, who he beat last 5 fights. We don't have some name from top pound for pound ranking.
Islam Makhachev recently criticized Jon Jones, saying it's embarrassing for the heavyweight champion to avoid a fight with Tom Aspinall. However, Khamzat Chimaev said he doesn't believe anyone is the pound-for-pound best fighter except for Jon Jones. He explained that as long as Jon Jones is still active, no one else can truly claim that top spot. And according to Chimaev, Jones is on another level and remains one of the greatest fighters in the sport. He added that no one has done what Jon Jones has done in MMA, and there's simply no one like him.
A lot of people think that Usman today is the pound-for-pound best. Do you think he's the very best?
I don't think so, because once still Jon Jones here, nobody can be pound for pound. I don't think so. Who make that pound for pound, and nobody did. What Jon Jones did. He's one of the best guys in this game. Nobody like him.
Moreover, Daniel Cormier made it clear that he does not believe Jon Jones fears Tom Aspinall or anyone else in the division. He dismissed that idea completely, saying that Jones is simply making smart choices to protect the legacy he's built over the years. Cormier noted that while most fighters eventually pass the torch to the next generation, Jones may not follow that same path. Even if he did choose to fight Aspinall and things didn't go his way, Cormier believes it wouldn't harm Jones's legendary status because of everything he's already accomplished in the sport.
Jon Jones isn't afraid of Tom Aspinall. I wish people would stop saying that. He is not afraid of that guy. He's not afraid of anyone. He's not afraid to fight this guy. He's not. I think he's trying to be more strategic. I think he's trying to make sure his legacy stands. I don't know how it could ever be faded. I mean, we do have short memories, but could you ever forget what he did? I don't think him fighting Tom Aspinall with the potential that he would lose is a bad thing. But as most would expect him to win the fight. But at the end of the day, the old guard has to get passed through for the new guard to go, unless you don't play the sport by the way that everyone else does it. Everyone else does it that way. Maybe Jones will be different.
Frank Mir echoed that view and gave Tom Aspinall credit for being a top-level heavyweight with a bright future ahead. Still, he stood up for Jon Jones, arguing that someone who has faced elite competition for over a decade has earned the right to choose his battles. Mir said people often forget how dominant Jones has been. While he acknowledged Aspinall's quick hands and sharp striking, he believed that if Jones could close the gap and force a more physical fight, Jones would likely still get the win.
I think Aspinall's a phenomenal heavyweight. I think he's going to be there for a while. With Jon, it's hard for me to tell people. The guy has earned so much. I feel like sometimes people have such a short memory in our sport. The guy has been one of the most dominant fighters of all time. If he wants to pick and choose who he fights, at a certain point, he kind of earned the right to. But, he faces criticism, I guess, from other people. But as far as what settles in my stomach, well, I get it. On paper, got people a short memory with him right now. Oh, he's not the GOAT. He's dodging Tom. Like, man, this guy fought everybody. I don't count him out in a fight with Aspinall. I've trained with Jon. I know how he feels when he grabs a hold of you. I think Tom's hands could really be the X factor if we can catch him or not. Tom's striking is more powerful than a lot of the people, and speed-wise in Jon's face. If Jon grabs him, though, I'm betting on Jon.
However, Islam Makhachev spoke about the situation between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, making it clear that he believes Jones is avoiding a real challenge. He said it reflects poorly on a champion to steer clear of someone as dangerous and skilled as Aspinall. In his view, holding the heavyweight title means taking on the top contenders, not choosing easier paths. Makhachev sees Aspinall as the rightful opponent and thinks the current situation damages the image of the division.
This is what UFC champion have to do. If you're real champion, you have to take fight, doesn't matter how many days, who is gonna be not like your pound for pound champion when they give him chills on him. If you're real champion, you have to fight. They put him number one, the number one guy right now. Who he beat last fight. We don't have some name from top pound for pound ranking.
Meanwhile, Colby Covington took a much different stance. He accused Jon Jones of deliberately avoiding high-risk matchups like one with Tom Aspinall. Covington suggested that Jones picks fights where the odds lean heavily in his favor rather than stepping up to face young and dangerous contenders. He brought up Jones's history with Francis Ngannou, claiming Jones avoided that matchup for years and is now doing the same with Aspinall. Covington slammed Jones for allegedly ducking real competition and instead choosing to fight someone like Stipe Miocic, who's well past his prime. He didn't hold back, labeling Jones a fraud who sidesteps the real challenges to protect his image.
Dude, Jon Jones is an absolute disgrace to this earth. He's a joke. I mean, yeah, you beat Stipe. Respect to Stipe first off, because he's a first responder and you know, he puts his life on the line for the people and for his community. So shout out to Stipe. He's, you know, the greatest heavyweight of all time, but he was past his time. He shouldn't even have been there, man. He knows he was old and he was just showing up for a paycheck. You know, that's not the Stipe of old, you know, that was in his prime anymore. So, you know, I don't think anything special that performance. I think Jon needs to stop ducking Tom Aspinall, just like he ducked Ngannou. You know, he ducked Ngannou for years. Now he's ducking Aspinall. So he doesn't want to fight the guys he knows he's going to get whooped against. So I don't think anything special.
However, Tom Aspinall compared Jon Jones to a politician, saying that Jones tries to influence how fans view situations to maintain control over public opinion. Aspinall made it clear that he hasn't disrespected Jones's legacy, which he considers one of the greatest in MMA history. He stated that there's no personal conflict between them, only the issue of the UFC heavyweight titles. In Aspinall's view, even though Jones is the champion, he believes he is the best heavyweight in the world right now based on current performance.
See, the thing with Jon is he's a bit like a politician. He likes to control the narrative of what fans think. I have never once come after Jon's legacy. I think it's unbelievable. I think his legacy is going to be far superior to mine, and most of the guys who are fighting in the UFC never had a problem with his legacy. I've never had a problem with him personally. The problem is he has the heavyweight title, and I'm the #1 heavyweight in the world.
Aspinall also addressed the criticism of Jones being labeled as someone who avoids tough opponents. He said it shouldn't shock anyone because Jones reportedly stayed away from a fight with Francis Ngannou for several years. He described Jones as someone who carefully picks fights where he has an edge, and who works hard to direct public perception in his favor. Aspinall insisted his comments weren't personal attacks, just an honest assessment. He said Jones tends to be defensive and strategic, calling himself the best ever while brushing Aspinall off as irrelevant. But Aspinall reminded everyone that he's the top-ranked heavyweight and has finished 5 top contenders in the first round, which makes him impossible to ignore.
The first thing that most champions would do is like, right, this guy wants it, I'm going to put him in his place. And if he thinks I don't deserve it, show me that I don't deserve it. Show me. Sweet, mate. If you get in front of the whole world, I'm happy to put my hand out and go, listen, you're the better man. No problem, you took my dreams away from me, but at least I tried. But this ducking and diving is something that I don't really have respect for.
Jon Jones responded to the criticism by denying that he's avoiding Aspinall. He said that what would actually count as ducking is pulling out of his long-planned fight with Stipe Miocic, a bout that was agreed upon over a year ago. Jones explained that Aspinall only entered the conversation after becoming an interim champion, and no talks or negotiations had ever taken place regarding a fight between them. He suggested that fans are pushing the narrative because they're eager to see someone new challenge his dominance, not because of anything rooted in fact.
So I'm not ducking Tom Aspinall. If I failed to fight Stipe, I would be ducking Stipe because we contractually have been signed up to fight over a year ago. This is Stipe's position. The Tom narrative came out of nowhere. He won a belt and now suddenly I'm ducking him. I've never had negotiations to even fight him, if this makes sense. So the fans are just ignoring it. They're ignoring all logic, and they just have finally found someone that they think can compete with me and everyone wants to see it now.
Moreover, Rampage Jackson expressed deep respect for Jon Jones, stating that he doesn't think anyone out there has what it takes to defeat him. He reflected on their own past fight, admitting that even though he was in peak condition, he still couldn't find a way to win against Jones. While he acknowledged Tom Aspinall as a strong opponent with impressive abilities, Rampage doesn't see him as a real threat to Jones. He also mentioned hearing that Jones might dedicate 6 months to studying Aspinall's style ahead of a potential fight, and he praised Jones for being one of the smartest fighters in the sport. Comparing Jones to Neo from The Matrix, he pointed out how Jones always seems to control every aspect of the fight.
You fought Jon Jones back in the day. People are
why you only bringing up my losses?
People are all talking about Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. How do you see that fight going? You got Tom or you got Jon?
Man, I don't think there's nobody on this planet that can beat Jon Jones, because I was in there with him. I was at my best, and I've never lost a fight at my best until Jon Jones. And, you know, no disrespect to Tom Aspinall, but he a good fighter. You know what I'm saying? I think he's probably second best out there, but I don't see him.
You think Jon Jones finishes him?
I think Jon Jones is just a real smart fighter. I heard something like he want to take 6 months before he fight Aspinall. I think it's because he want to study him. He want to break him down, you know. Right. Jon Jones ain't no fool. He's probably one of the smartest fighters out there. I say he like Neo. He's Neo of MMA.
Georges St-Pierre also shared his views on Jon Jones, calling him potentially the most dominant athlete in MMA history. He said that if the sport had to be represented by just one fighter in a one-on-one showdown, Jones would be his pick. Still, St-Pierre reminded everyone that even the best fighters eventually face the realities of aging, something no one can avoid forever.
You talk about legacy, like Jon Jones, you know, it's probably the best fighter that ever lives. You know, talk about if I have to choose someone in his prime that I put in the Coliseum hand to hand, I think it would be Jon Jones. You know, it's hard to deny that.
UFC welterweight champion Belal Muhammad sees Tom Aspinall as possibly the biggest threat Jon Jones has faced so far, citing Aspinall's power and quickness as trademarks of today's evolving heavyweight talent. Although Muhammad still favors Jones to win, he emphasized that the bout would only happen if the financial stakes are high enough. He believes Dana White will likely aim to make the fight happen because of the huge revenue it could generate. However, Muhammad thinks Jones, who has already built a legendary career, might lean toward a matchup with Alex Pereira, unless he's offered a massive payout in the range of $30 to $50 million to take on Aspinall.
If I'm Jon Jones, like a lot of people consider him the GOAT, the best fighter to ever do it. The next hungry lion is Aspinall. It's probably the toughest fight that he'll have. Like, this guy's the next generation. He's a lot stronger, a lot faster. But I think Jon Jones is good enough to beat him. But it's like, it has to be worth it. The fans are fickle, right? You lose one fight, they're gonna, right? They just care about your last win or your last loss. I think Dana White and them will end up making it. Dana White's a smart businessman. He knows how much money that fight would make. If I'm Jon Jones, you've already done everything in the sport. It's not worth it unless it's that $30 million, $50 million payday. If I'm Jon Jones, I'm picking out Pereira first over Aspinall.
Francis Ngannou weighed in on the ongoing conversation surrounding a potential fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, offering a different angle. He argued that while Jones continues to insist he doesn't need to face Aspinall, it's actually Aspinall who stands to gain the most from the matchup. In Ngannou's view, defeating Jones would be a massive career-defining moment for Aspinall, whereas Jones wouldn't gain much from taking the fight. He also stated that Aspinall would be a tougher opponent than someone like Alex Pereira, largely because of his strong wrestling base and better ability to handle situations on the ground.
He keeps saying he doesn't want Aspinall.
Aspinall need that fight. I don't need it. When you look at it, pretty much true. There's nothing that he's going to make winning that fight if it's not money. But for Aspinall, that will be everything.
Would you rather see him face Aspinall, or would you rather see him face Pereira?
Aspinall will be a more challenging fight because Aspinall respond to a ground game better than Pereira. Aspinall will respond better in the wrestling than Pereira. He can do whatever he wants.
Despite that, Tom Aspinall remains unconvinced by Jon Jones's explanation. He strongly pushed back against the idea that Jones isn't avoiding him. Aspinall accused Jones of sidestepping big matchups for years. years, pointing specifically to the fact that Jones never fought Francis Ngannou during his time in the UFC and has now avoided him for over a year. He made it clear that the UFC is open to booking the fight, but emphasized that the final choice lies with Jones and Dana White. Though Aspinall continues to call Jones one of the sport's all-time greats, he also subtly questioned Jones's legacy by bringing up past failed drug tests and hinting at the possibility of performance-enhancing drug use.
Is Jon Jones scared to fight you?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the thing with Jon is conning the public, man. And now he's not wanting to fight me for over a year. I respect it, but if you're going to ask me the straight up question, is Jon Jones afraid to fight me? The honest answer would be yes.
Jon Jones has pushed back against these accusations, calling the narrative that he's ducking Tom Aspinall completely unfounded. He acknowledged that Aspinall is younger, bigger, and on the rise, but questioned what defeating him would actually add to his already solidified legacy. Jones used the example of his dominant win over Cyril Gane as proof that even high-profile victories don't necessarily enhance his standing. He emphasized that there haven't been any serious talks about a fight with Aspinall and insisted that the entire storyline of him avoiding the matchup has been created without evidence.
I get that Tom is an exciting fighter. I get that finally, after 16 years, we found somebody who's 7 years younger than me and 30 pounds bigger than me. Like, we finally found someone who may give me a great challenge. And everyone wants to see it so bad. But for me, it's like, what is it? What's in it for me? He changes nothing if I beat him. Beating Tom is just like beating Cyril Gane. Has a whole country behind him. He's hot right now. What happens to me after I beat him? Nothing changes for me. So I'm not ducking Tom Aspinall.
Joe Rogan, meanwhile, praised Jon Jones's dominance in MMA, pointing to his history of beating elite fighters like Daniel Cormier. Rogan noted that Jones's strength lies not just in his physical attributes, but also in his strategic intelligence and ability to control fights while avoiding significant damage.
Jon dominates everybody. He took down Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier is an Olympic wrestler. I mean, he's a phenomenal wrestler, and Jon took him down multiple times. He's a different dude, man.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about, like with genetics, right? There's some guys, they're just blessed, and then with Jon, it's blessed and his mind. It's not just, it's his personality, his like ruthless competitiveness. It's like he's not going to lose. He's going to find a way to get you, and he's going to do it clever. He's not trying to take a bunch of punishment and to stand and bang. He's not going to point the center of the octagon and let's go right here, we'll stand right here. Never going to happen with Jon Jones. You're not getting none of that, son. You're getting knees to the gut. You're getting your knees kicked. You're getting just laced up with elbows where your head's bleeding. He's going to slowly dismantle you and find a way to submit you, or punish you, beat you to death on the ground.
However, Rogan didn't ignore the threat posed by Tom Aspinall. He described Aspinall as a rare athlete in the heavyweight division, calling him a due to his unusual blend of speed, size, and movement. According to Rogan, that combination makes Aspinall a very dangerous matchup for anyone, including Jones.
But can he do that with a guy like Aspinall, who's a legit 255-pound natural who moves like he's 80 pounds lighter? He's a man.
Yeah.
Aspinall's a like, I've seen a lot of heavyweight, even Francis, who's like the greatest, scariest power striker I've ever seen in the heavyweight division. No one's scarier than Francis. Francis does not move like Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is significantly faster than every other heavyweight. That's a real problem.
Kamaru Usman added to the growing list of voices weighing in on a possible showdown between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. Usman stated that he sees Aspinall as the most dangerous fighter in the heavyweight division right now and arguably the biggest threat to Jones's current position. He acknowledged the unique challenges Aspinall brings to the table with his combination of speed, power, and well-rounded skills. Still, Usman offered a word of advice to Jones, suggesting that if he were to take on such a high-risk opponent, he should first make sure the financial side is well secured. To him, the danger Aspinall presents means that any fight with him should come with significant financial reward.
I do think Tom Aspinall is the most dangerous heavyweight right now. 100% the biggest threat to pry that belt away from Jon Jones. But Jon has got to get that bag. gets that bag.
Paddy Pimblett also chimed in on the potential matchup, calling a fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall a must-see event. He expressed strong support for his fellow Brit, sharing hope that Aspinall would come out on top. At the same time, Pimblett was realistic about the challenge ahead. He acknowledged Jones's legendary fight IQ and tactical brilliance, highlighting how hard it is to bet against someone with so much experience and success inside the octagon. For Pimblett, the matchup stands out because it brings together two different generations of fighters, one at the peak of his rise, and the other still holding firm at the top through sheer strategy and skill.
Do you think the Aspinall-Jones fight happens?
It's got to happen. I was sitting next to Tom the other week at the UFC in London and talking to him about it.
How do you think that plays out if they fight?
I'll be honest, Tom's a friend. I love Tom. He's one of the coolest dudes in the whole of MMA. Even though Jones is getting old, I just can't pick against Jon Jones. The one thing I do think Jon Jones has got the best in the world and the best ever is his fight IQ. He has a perfect game plan to beat that person. As much as I love Tom and I want Tom to win, I couldn't pick against Jon Jones. It's just something I couldn't do.
So what are your thoughts on this? Share your thoughts in the comments section and make sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video.